Hello, welcome back. My name is Jeremy. I'm a fabricator and mechanic, and I am building a 1937 Auto Union Type C replica. Today, we're going to take this guy, a HEI 6-cylinder distributor, and we're going to adapt it to our distributorless ignition system Mercedes V12. Let's get to it. So you may be wondering, what kind of crack am I smoking? Well, I'm not. So the reason I'm going to try this is for a couple of reasons. Firstly, I really like the simplicity. More importantly, it's much cheaper. To run, the problem with a V12 is nobody makes off-the-shelf fuel injection or electronic engine controls. So to have a V12 setup, you need a lot more of everything. Instead of 8 coils, you need 12. Exhaust pipes, all that stuff, you need more. So I'm gonna try to save a little money. I think it will look really cool aesthetically because originally, way back, the V16s and V12s from Auto Union used 2 either 6 or 8 cylinder magnetos driven off of the back of the engine. These are going to go on the front. So I'm going to take you over to the engine itself, and we're going to walk through how this is going to be possible, because if you note, there's a gear here that's typically driven off of the camshaft, except our camshaft doesn't have this gear. So what are we going to do? So here is the Mercedes V12. This is the M137, I believe, family, which means it has a couple of weird issues with this left bank of cylinders has a deactivation setup, so they can turn off the rocker arms basically and shut down this entire bank. Interesting thing about that is it shows a very cool feature of most V series engines is that each bank is its own separate engine, really, especially on overhead cam engines. But even old school pushrod engines, you can take off all of the plug wires from a regular even firing V engine, and they will run smooth as can be because they are still running on a complete engine basically. So what that alludes to is we can turn this into a pair of 6-cylinder inline engines that we can run with a HEI ignition system. This is a Chevrolet based HEI ignition. So HEI stands for higher energy ignition. It's a higher voltage spark. And this is a complete contained ignition system. So it has reluctor wheel, the coils in the top, everything's in here. This is your vacuum advance. So this is a complete ignition system. There's no separate coil, there's no separate pickups, there's no nothing. This one is an aftermarket one that has come off, hasn't come off of anything, that is for a Ford 300 inline 6-cylinder engine. The reason for that is because if you look at most distributors, they turn opposite rotation of the engine because the camshaft turns the same direction as the crankshaft, which then means because you have a gear-to-gear drive, the distributor turns backwards to that. So to leapfrog ahead, what we're doing is we're going to mount this to the end of the camshaft. So the camshaft will turn this directly, and that will spin this, which will give us our ignition source. But if you were to use one off of a standard, normal 6-cylinder, you would have to mount it off the back of the camshaft to turn the appropriate way, because of the vacuum advance system would pull it the wrong way. So it would be a vacuum retard system, which you don't want. Ford 300 inline 6s have a gear-to-gear camshaft drive, which means the camshaft turns reverse rotation of the engine, which means then that our distributor turns the same direction as the crankshaft. So we can mount this off of the front of our cam, right here basically. And if you look at the earlier generation of Mercedes V12s, have that system. They have a distributor on the front of each camshaft. It's an electronic ignition system of a different nature, but same principle. And so what I'm going to do is we're going to shorten this distributor up quite a bit. We'll make a mounting boss we'll drive it directly off the end of the camshaft, and we'll put a plate on here so we can lock it down and all that kind of stuff. This is just a breather cover, but under here there is also the same hex. So this I have already worked on quite a bit, getting rid of all the emissions stuff that's on this front cover. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this shaft, we'll disassemble this distributor first. We'll cut our body down quite a ways, maybe to here, so we'll only have that much sticking out, because that seems doable. And then we'll shorten our shaft to match, and then we will put a hex drive on the end of it that is the same size. I believe this is 13 millimeter. So we will just make a 12 millimeter drive that will go in there, and that has a very, very slight amount of play, but since we're gonna make it, we will make it have less play, and it's not super critical because as the engine is turning, it will keep it loaded against it. There's no force trying to unload the distributor, and the distributor doesn't take very much energy at all to turn, especially in a non-point type ignition. In an electronic ignition distributor, you're basically just freewheeling, because all it's doing is running a reluctor wheel past a sensor to tell it, hey, this is turning, fire now. So what we'll do is we'll make a 12 millimeter plug that goes in here. We'll do the same transfer punch thing that we did for the bell housing bolts. We'll put that in the end of this and then whack the timing cover or this front cover here with a hammer, and that will give us the center point of our camshafts. That'll give us the center point of our camshafts, which then will allow us to bore out these front covers. And this is really thin, so I'll have to add a plate on here, which is no big deal. I have some 1/2 inch aluminum, I believe, still. But I'll weld a reinforcement plate on probably both of these, actually. We can drill our hole, bore it out perfectly, and then we know our distributor will be centered on the camshaft. And then, like I said, this will just go here, and there will be one on each side. From there, it'll be fairly simple to actually set time. The first bank with cylinder 1, you'll set it as normal. So you'll hook your thing on the spark plug wire 1, hook it up from there. Second bank, I'll have to look at the firing order to figure out first, to figure it out again. But basically, you'll do the same thing, except you'll hook onto, I don't know if this is set up like a Ford or a Chevrolet as far as cylindering numberings go. I'll have to look into that. But you'll hook up to your initial spark plug wire, and same idea. And I'll label all of these 1, 2, 3, 4, because this doesn't know where cylinder 1 is. Like, you can put this wherever you want. So off camera, I added a piece of 3/8, I believe, aluminum plate to this front portion of the cover here. So now, this front portion here, it's hard to show on camera, but it's about 1/2 inch thick total, which will be plenty to register the distributor and to have a hold down for the distributor as well. Plus one bolt, this one goes all the way through the plate addition as well. I made this little guy, which fits quite snugly in the end of the camshaft bolt. Just a 12 millimeter Allen, so that fits in there. And then I bolted this guy on and then smacked it with a hammer here, just like we did on the adapter plate in the back, and that left us a little indent right there. So now we know that that is the center of the camshaft, and this front cover is aligned with dowel pins as well, so we can be very sure that this is all going to line up when we bore our hole. So now I can take this over to the mill, put a center in the mill, and then center it up on this to bore my hole through. So next step is we're going to knock this little roll pin out here, pop this gear off, and then we can take the shaft out and pull all of this stuff off, the advance and this, and chuck this in the lathe to get rid of this bottom chunk. So here's the distributor hold down clamp I made. Showed you some of the machining on that. I finished these just with the belt grinder and then dressed it up some. This is an idiot mark. I turned the handle the wrong way on the mill. Luckily this one goes on the bottom because it sits on the motor like this, with the front of the motor this way. So here's the distributor completely reassembled and substantially shortened. Just for a refresher, this is what one looks like unaltered. So you've got a gear drive here, a whole lot of this sticking out. Set that over there. And here's our stubby guy. So I've put an O-ring here to seal the inside of the motor basically. And then there's a new groove cut here. Whereas you can see on this original, there's just a square up here from the original casting. So cut that down. Added this O-ring groove, and then this is the hold down clamp. It fits in here with a really nice, ooh, that's nice. Rotates nicely, and it has just a little bit of clearance. This bottom surface on the distributor sticks out just slightly farther, so when you tighten the bolt down, it clamps the whole thing down. And like I said, I'm really happy with the fit because you can hear it like click into place. It's so nice. So this is basically done, so we'll go over and install it on the motor. And I just have a from my bolt drawer an M8 washer headed bolt that fits in here like so. So you can see here the recess for fitting around this to clamp it down. So go ahead and slip this dude in. This has to go in like so because with the bolt, because the bolt is too tall. So got to start it, and then as you're threading it in, I know my hand's right in the way. As we thread this in, we can, if our stupid distributor would line up, there we go. You got to line up the hex on the distributor, which would be easier to do if I hadn't put the cap on here. Go ahead and snug this guy down. So with this snug now, we can set the timing as we need to. And then once we have it wherever we want, once it's all together, we can go ahead and tighten that bolt down. We are permanently locked on. And then this is just for the breather that I had to alter over here. So I figure it'll go on something like this. And keep everything nice and tidy. So that's gonna do it for this video. I did wanna do the second one on this, but I have been doing some research, and you can get the next generation of this engine is called the M275. They don't have all this stupid camshaft deactivation stuff. So you can get the camshafts with the towers that eliminates all of that. So it's got a different front cover as well. So I'm gonna hold off on making the second one until I've for sure decided how I'm going to go about this. I think, spoiler alert, I believe I'm going to try to put M275 camshaft assemblies in the top of this. They're better suited for boost. This is not really a good motor for boost, but we can have fun until it blows up. So this one's going to go back in the box and sit on the shelf until I figure all that out. And so that will round out this video. That is I'll use the same method for the second one whenever I do get I might end up having to buy a whole cylinder head to get the front cover with it because it is different. I believe the cylinder head base is the same. So yeah, that is how you add a distributor to an engine that was never designed ever to have a distributor. So we do have to add one more. I'm really happy with how it turned out though. It's nice and svelte. It doesn't stick out super far, maybe 4 inches past the pulleys on the motor, which is not crazy. This is just going to go up against the front bulkhead, well, the one behind the seat anyway. So there's nothing up here super crazy. And then I can just make my own spark plug wires. I'm probably going to get some aftermarket cloth wrapped spark plug wires to make it look just, you know, more old-timey and cool. And then those will just run back down to each bank. So thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions or comments about how to do this on something else, because this transfers directly to any overhead cam engine that doesn't have a distributor. So good example, a lot of people have seen talk about doing this to modular Fords, because you can, I've seen examples of that. If you're going to have some sort of electronic control system that doesn't care about the vacuum advance, you don't have to worry about the distributor's rotation direction either, because it's just a Hall effect switch that tells it now is when you need to trip the ignition. So if you're going for that route, otherwise, you can, like I said, you can find aftermarket ones for various engines, or you can always run it off the back of the camshafts, anything like that. I like these HEI setups because they're super easy to adjust. There's incredible amount of aftermarket support, and it's a self-contained unit. You don't have to have any other alternate or any other additional control units of any kind. It's all right here. That being said, like the video, subscribe, ring the bell, do all the stupid things you have to do to find out when I make videos, because it is pretty sporadic, I will admit. And I will see you in the next video, where we'll probably be working on making an intake manifold for this thing, or something else. Who knows? I'll see you there. Thanks for watching.